Why your twin flame consistently lets you down. If your twin flame constantly lets you down, this is why. I'm going to share with you in this video exactly why it happens, how your twin flame really feels about it, how to identify if what I'm sharing with you in this video is the case for your twin flame dynamic. So signs in the 3D that you can actually look for to see if is what your twin flame struggles with. And I'm pretty sure for 90% of my clients, this is the number one underlying contributory factor that leads to this inconsistency that we see coming up in the twin flame dynamic. And I'm going to share with you one key way that you can employ within yourself that will go just such a long way into preventing this inconsistency from happening without even having a single conversation with your twin flame about it. So I'm really excited about this video because I just know that it impacts so many of my clients and so many of us as twin flames, and it doesn't need to continue. I really struggled with this in my own twin flame dynamic for years. And I had to ultimately really sit down and take a look at where I was inconsistent, where I was not showing up, how my twin flame was mirroring me. And by the way, this video is not all going to be about taking responsibility. I'm literally looking at your twin flame here. So if they are inconsistent, I want you to understand why this is really happening, like what the root cause is. As my twin flame always says, everything has a root. And this is what I want to uncover here so that you can move into this place of compassion and understanding and deeper love. And we're going to get there because I know this is one of the most painful experiences on the twin flame journey. So if you're new here, I'm Charlie Kingsland. Welcome to the temple. I'm so glad you're here. You could leave me a like down below before we jump into this video. I'd be so grateful because it means that this video can get out into the world and we can fulfill our mission of radically transforming what love looks like and help people move into healthier relationships and find and love their twin flame as they're supposed to. Find, give, and receive love as we are supposed to here on this earth. So before we jump in, before we dive into this then, I would highly recommend that you sign up for my new masterclass Trust Space. So I just want to tell you about this for a second. This masterclass I've designed specifically with this topic in mind because it has impacted so many of my clients. And I was just finding myself repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And so first of all, that's the reason for this video training. The core reason, I'll tell you the second reason in just a second because it's relevant to your situation as well in most cases. But Trust Space, my new masterclass, is for you if your twin is constantly letting you down, if you're tired of telling your twin they're doing it and you're not seeing any change, if your twin had a habit of letting you down over and over again and it's led to a separation. So maybe, it's been one of the biggest factors that led to a separation that you might currently be in. Or even if you've just had relationships in the past with heavy push-pull dynamics, or you feel like you've been taken for granted, or like your boundaries keep getting crossed despite you advocating for them, you're going to want to check out Trust Space. And details are down below in the comments. So now I want to share a little bit of the backstory about how I came to this point of awareness. I flake a lot on my purpose, okay? So you'll see here at the temple, for example, I'm very inconsistent with posting. I can go days, weeks without posting at all. And it's not that I ever back out of or doubt my purpose. Like, I know what I'm here for. I know this is my life's work. But some days I just find it hard to show up, or have done previously in the past. And I think there was a time last year where I went months without, sharing a single video, a single short, a single story, anything, anywhere. I accidentally, but everything has a root. Again, accidentally, in inverted commas, deleted my TikTok account, with a viral video on it of over like 500,000 views, I think it ended up at the end. Accidentally deleted my Instagram account. All of these ways that I was being inconsistent for myself with my purpose. So some days I just found it rather hard to show up. I'm talking about in terms of content creation, in terms of visibility, in terms of being here for you, sharing these messages that come through. I will often write them down in my journal and just never share them anywhere, which is kind of pointless. So why was I doing it? Anyway, over the last 4 to 5 months, it started to get easier and easier for me. And now I'm pretty consistent. Stay with me, there is a point to this story. And I'm pretty consistent. So most weeks, if not days, I am posting something somewhere. And this used to be so hard for me to do. And I had a few days last week where, again, I didn't want to post. I didn't want to show up. I could feel myself creeping back into that old avoidant mode. But I didn't really get why. Like, I love building the temple with you. I love being here. I've been a coach for a decade, and I just don't even have words for how much I love supporting you. Like, I really do. I know this is my purpose work. And it didn't really make any sense then that, a few days last week, I was just not wanting to post. And what I've noticed is that when I'm detaching from my twin, when I go into what I call shutdown mode, I detach hard when either he hasn't been around or I'm feeling like maybe he doesn't care. I start to shut down from him. And I've talked about this in other videos before, and maybe you do this as well, right? And I started to notice a pattern. And what I realized was the reason I've been able to show up more consistently over the last 4 to 5 months is, since we reconnected last year. And interestingly, he has also, and this is key, okay, he has also been more steady and consistent in what I believe to be his purpose too. And also another thing, side note, was that his nightmares stopped. I realized that the reason these things happened, where we've been able to show up more consistently for our purpose, is because twins are a safe space for one another. They really are home for each other. And let me explain what that means and why it's important for you. It means when you're together, your nervous system feels regulated, which physically brings you that sense of peace and calm and being relaxed when you're together, right? It's that famous twin bubble love. Now, when you are working or living, essentially, when you are doing life from a place of a stabilized central nervous system in the body, it means you can much more easily show up for your purpose and each other and your friends and your family, whatever it is, because you know essentially that you are safe, you are held, you are loved, you are loved. So essentially, amongst all the other amazing things that twin flames bring to each other is this gift of this feeling of safety. You're literally stabilizing one another's nervous system. And possibly for twins, maybe this is the first time they've ever really truly experienced that. And this is important for you to remember as we go throughout this video. So I realized during this kind of mini break, I realized that almost every twin I've worked with, both divine feminine and divine masculine, although this presents much more strongly in the divine masculine energy, is working from a highly dysregulated nervous system. And this is the core reason that they continue to let you down. And I'm going to explain exactly what that means, why this happens, how to recognize it, and so on, and what to do about it. But the first real thing I want you to know then is that this means your twin showing up inconsistently and continually breaking promises and letting you down is literally nothing to do with you. So even though you're on you're on the receiving end of it, and I understand that's really painful, like I really do. I've also been on the receiving end of that. It's nothing to do with you. So the core reason I'm making this video is because I want you to know, it's so important for you to understand that when your twin flame lets you down, it's literally nothing to do with you. And when you understand more about why this happens, something really important can shift for you. If you can act on the information I'm about to share with you in this video, you can transform your relationship with your twin. I'm diving in now. So it's this. When we can show understanding to our twin about why they are showing up inconsistently, we can, and also just even to hold that space of understanding for ourselves. So understanding their behavior from a space of being understanding, of being compassionate for ourselves. Not as in having compassion for ourselves, but having compassion for them as to why they're doing it. Being able to be that person of being understanding, not just having understanding, being understanding is different. When we can show understanding and be understanding about why this happens, why this twin flame inconsistency occurs, we can much more easily stop ourselves reacting to it. And what this means is we can start to stabilize our own nervous system. So when we're able to show empathy, understanding, and compassion, and we know something is not about us, it takes the pressure off of us to have to respond to it. We no longer see that situation as about us. We don't have to take it personally. And so therefore we are not called to respond or react from a place of fight or flight. And in twins, who have this kind of, volcanic reactive system to one another because we're so scared of losing this place of safety, trust, and security that maybe we've never experienced before. This is key, is calming that fight or flight response from a place of having this safety and security, this, nervous system that feels regulated, that is regulated. This stops us having that response. And we know we are coming from that place of knowing it is not about us. It means we are becoming emotionally stable and consistent for ourselves. And this means we are no longer feeding our twin guilt or shame or trying to get them to carry our emotions around how we feel about their actions, about their inconsistency, about them letting us down. We are simply able to witness it from a place of non-judgment. And I know this sounds all quite like, oh, well, that sounds nice, but it still fucking hurts. Yeah, of course it does. Let me get through this. Stay with me. When we are able to witness how they show up from a place of non-judgment and know that it's not about us, we are not only being unconditional love, but this is when things will really start to shift and change for you because you are being steady and stable for yourself. Remember, your twin absolutely mirrors you. And one of the biggest problems my clients have is that actually, although we see the divine masculine more frequently presenting as inconsistent in the 3D in terms of letting you down, turning up late, problems in communication, not responding to messages, not picking up calls, whatever it is, actually, in the divine feminine, frequently we see inconsistency in emotional response, in emotional stability. And remember, your divine masculine will mirror. And the other way around. So divine masculine, if this is you listening and you know that sometimes you present as showing up as inconsistent in the 3D, so maybe you talk about moving, or maybe, take crazy holidays, or showing up late, or you're inconsistent in your communication, this will reflect in your divine feminine's response. So maybe she starts to shut down in her responses to you, and you see that as inconsistent, and that triggers you even more. But actually, it's a response to your inconsistency. It's a response to you. So we are making each other feel unsafe. And actually, the way to stabilize that, regulate your core nervous central system. So why your twin flame lets you down then. And this can be, like I said, in terms of communication, maybe not calling when they say they will, maybe not giving the text-based response, maybe they take days to respond, or maybe they make plans with you and then they let you down, or maybe they're rarely on time. And I'm talking on repeat here, okay? So this is a pattern of letting you down. It's frequent. Everyone has the odd phone call they forget to make, or they get busy. I'm talking about this inconsistency is when you notice it started to become a pattern. The reason this happens, so yes, like I've identified, they've got this dysregulated nervous system, but where does this come from? It happens because in a twin flame dynamic, usually your twin, or more often both of you, have come from a background, a childhood and upbringing where stability and consistency was not present, and or there were high levels of chaos, conflict, or trauma. So you and your twin did not develop a sense of unconditional love or learn how to trust a stable, safe, consistent figure. And what happens is your twin's nervous system never learned to regulate and stay steady and stay consistent and stable. And instead, your twin, particularly divine masculine, is in a constant state of overwork, overthinking, and stress as they continue to recreate these patterns in other relationships, because this is all they've ever known as love. So when your twin is constantly letting you down, but yet you do know and trust at a core level they actually do love you. Like when you stop for a minute and you think, well, they've just responded with 3 lines and I just sent them a paragraph or 10 paragraphs or whatever it is. Or you think, well, they turned up 2 hours late at a time when I really needed them. Or maybe they just, flaked altogether. What's really important to understand is that what you're being shown here is someone working from a dysregulated nervous system. And it's not about not trusting you. And this is important because what happens is when you're on the receiving end of these actions, because it's painful, what tends to happen is that we internalize it and we make stories about it being about us not being good enough. So we tell ourselves these stories about how they obviously don't value us, because if they did, they'd want to spend time with us. Or clearly we're not important enough in their lives for them to be on time for. And I used to really believe this about my twin. Like, I used to feel really uncared for whenever he would let me down or show up hours late. And what I've realized since is that this is just so not true. And I would say for about 90% of my clients that I work with, actually the opposite is true. That your twin flame would be devastated to hear that. And if you've ever talked to your twin about this, you'll know instantly they retreat into this kind of cave of pain, shame, sadness, resistance, and feeling really upset, because it's actually the opposite is true. They literally have so much love for you, and it actually kills them to show up for you in this way, to know that you're hurting, to know that they are to some degree responsible for that pain, because this is the last thing that they ever want you to experience. And it happens because they have literally never been shown consistency and trust from the people who were meant to love them most. Their brains have literally never learned how to create their own sense of trust and stability. And probably the same for you as well. But like I said, it presents differently. Divine feminine, divine masculine presents differently, usually. So just to repeat that then, the opposite is true. Your twin flame would be likely devastated to hear that you feel that their actions make you feel uncared for or unloved. And again, if you've ever talked to your twin flame about this, you'll know instantly that they retreat into shame and sadness and resistance, and they end up feeling really upset because deep down they really do hold you in such high regard, and they really do love you, and it kills them to show up for you in this way. But because they've never been shown this consistency and trust from people who were meant to love them most, their brains have never learned how to create their own sense of trust and stability. And yet, their nervous system craves it. This is why you call in your twin flame. It's literally your body on the verge of meltdown, right? Saying, this isn't normal. You cannot continue to live life in this way. Your nervous system craves trust and stability. Because when your nervous system relaxes, you feel at peace, calm, joyful, purposeful, and so on. Like I said, the twin flame bubble. And twins have this instant recognition of each other, which instantly calms each other's central nervous system when in the presence of each other. Both of you actually feel so safe. But when away from each other, it's very easy for twins to move back into old patterns of behavior, especially if they're surrounded by old habits and triggers. So for example, if your twin is in a high pressure job, they tend to be re-triggering themselves through stress and pressure. Or perhaps they're in a trauma-bonded relationship, or one that was not chosen from a place of being fully conscious, which most of us aren't before we meet our twins, let's be honest. Or we have some degree of consciousness, but then meeting your twin kind of cracks you open, you go through your dark night of the souls, and you become much more conscious on a whole other level. But prior to that, perhaps they have experienced, or they will have experienced relationships, or perhaps are still in relationships that are based on ego or subconscious desires for a parental figure that actually mirrored the behaviors of their childhood caregivers because it feels familiar. So your twin flame has been working from this place of knowing what they should be doing and wanting to honor their word, but it feels so unfamiliar to them to be trustworthy, simply because they haven't cultivated this feeling of trust and reliability for themselves yet. And every time they're away from you, they are being triggered out of this place of safety and trust and stability and back into old habits and behaviors because of their environment and circumstance. So I posted something over on my Instagram actually about a year or so ago, and I said, if a plant isn't flourishing, you don't change the plant, right? You change the environment. But the first thing we tend to do in this society where we kind of are very self-critical and self-loathing, and we're encouraged to look at the faults within ourselves, we try to fix ourselves. This is where I get a bit sick of the healing paradigm. Like, healing is beautiful, but at the same time, it needs to come from an understanding of, actually, we're already perfect as we are. There's nothing wrong with us. And Why are we always continuing to try to change the plant when actually sometimes we just need to pick up the fucking plant and put it in the sunshine? Like, that's literally as simple as it needs to be. Okay, and it's so true. It's just so difficult to create an internal place of peace and stability within ourselves if our environment is continually draining. So if your environment is continually draining you and triggering you out of that, or your twin, your environment is continuously triggering your twin and draining them, whether that's through old friends, that can be a very painful trigger. I've got a friend right now who continuously goes back to these very old friendships she's had for a really long time, and it triggers her over and over again. But again, of course, it's really difficult to create a centralized nervous system when you're around those old triggers, those old friends, family dynamics, work, or even other partners. So your twin flame then essentially hasn't created neural pathways of trust. And often what happens is usually both twins choose or have previously chosen partners who, this is the most common one I see actually, that creates instability in the nervous system, because we have always craved that consistency and stability from our parents, yet never received it to any great degree, or not to the degree that we needed, the understanding, the consistency, the stability that we needed in order to develop those trust bonds, those neural pathways that are associated with trust, reliability, consistency, and stability for ourselves. What we do until we meet our twin, until we become fully conscious, until we become aware, we choose partners who continue to follow the same patterning of our childhood wounding. So we choose people whose personalities, and your twin will do this as well, or will have done this. They choose people whose personalities can be, maybe unpredictable or sharp in some way, people who seem to create a lot of drama or chaos. Even though they might seem like the calm in the storm, there's always kind of drama going on around them. And I'm not talking about big life-changing events, okay? So everybody experiences grief or death or, violence in some way. So I'm not talking about, big life-changing drama and chaos. I'm talking about, or genuine upset. I'm talking about people who are more easily offended, or they like to argue in front of others, or they use just some sort of control-based patterns of behavior. All of these kind of relationships have kept yours or your twins, usually both of you, have kept your twin's nervous system on overdrive. And again, it stops them from creating healthy, trust-based behaviors for themselves. They're still following those same neural pathways. They're re-imprinting those patterns of inconsistency as safety over and over and over again. So I just want to run through some signs that this is actually the case for your twin. And like I said, I think for 90% of twins, if not 100%, but let's go with 90, this is what's happening. Your twin is working from a dysregulated nervous system because they have no association with what trust and safety actually looks like. And so they act on what they have always known to believe to be safety, which is inconsistency, and untrustworthy behavior. But it can change, and I'm going to show you how as we go through this. But what I want you to know are some of the signs so that you can recognize if your twin, in addition to the inconsistent behaviors or letting you down frequently, or inconsistency with communication, I want you to be able to spot that your twin is really struggling with this dysregulated nervous system, and actually they need your support, compassion, and understanding. So a couple of signs then. In addition to letting you down, you'll often see your twin, they are late. The twins are late frequently. I also used to have this until somebody actually held me to account, and it wasn't my twin, it was a friend some time ago, and she said to me, "Am I just not important enough for you to be on time for?" That killed me, and it really did. And I am much better with my timing now. Still not perfect, but again, at least I know where it comes from. It comes from having this dysregulated system. So so they'll often present as late. They will also be inconsistent with communication with others as well as you. You will find it's not just you. So even though we tend to take it personally, it's not just you that they are inconsistent with communication with. Another sign, they tend to frequently have odd relationships with their phone. So they'll kind of set themselves these kind of strange rules. Like, and I know this because I used to do this. Like, I'm going to turn my phone off for the day, or I'm going to put my phone in a drawer for 2 days and just not look at it. Or maybe I'll delete my social media account for a certain period of time. Now, some people do this as a healthy strategy, but what is happening here is that, and alongside some of the other signs, what's happening is your twin is essentially trying to create some sort of safety, some sort of trustworthy behavior for themselves. But of course, the areas in which they need it the most within their relationship, particularly with their twin or the people that they frequently let down, is because that's reflective of actually the thing that they desire the most, which is safety. And ironically, they're often very safe, steady, and consistent for somebody who is inconsistent with their behaviors for them, because that's what they had to do as a child. They had to stay like the parent. They had to try to find some sort of safety and consistency for themselves as a child for somebody who was being inconsistent with them. So when your twin is presented with you, which is safety, which is trust, which is security, it's almost like they don't know what to do with that, because all they've ever known is someone being inconsistent with them. And so these kind of odd relationships that they have with their phone, where I'm going to put my phone away in a drawer for a week or delete my social media account, is some sort of attempt to establish some sort of safety and security for themselves. Other signs that they have, they struggle with giving themselves deadlines or working to deadlines in areas where it matters. So like I said, I was inconsistent with my work and purpose, which is why I shared with you the example about how I was previously inconsistent in this area. Okay, so it all makes sense now, it's all tying in. And of course my twin and I mirror, and I feel previously he was the same, but I've definitely healed probably like 80% in this area now. So it's just testimony. I was sharing that with you to show you that how you can change. You can start to create more of a regulated nervous system for yourself and for your twin. So there are a few other signs that might exist as well. So perhaps your twin has weird organizational habits. Maybe they're really good at organizing, I don't know, say paperwork or filing or cupboards or receipts or, whatever it is, which is a sign they're trying to have, again, some sort of consistency and control over their lives. And another big one, which is kind of interesting that I realized a while ago, they might also show signs of spiteful behavior, like really trying to lash out when they're hurt. And while this can actually be a subconscious strategy for communication, and you often get this presenting in avoidance, and I'm going to talk a lot more about avoidance in future videos, but because a lot of twins also present as avoidant, it can also be a sign that they can't trust themselves enough to communicate with you in healthier ways. Again, these trust bonds in the area of communication simply haven't formed, and instead they're acting from this nervous system that is on hyperdrive. And the final sign then is obviously, is a more of an obvious sign, drugs and alcohol abuse, which can be ways that we try to soothe our nervous system. Actually, there's one other, fluctuating weight. So if your twin struggles with fluctuating weight, or you struggle with this, it can be caused by high levels of stress hormones in the body. And again, a sign that you are constantly on overdrive. And being consistently busy is also a sign of a dysregulated nervous system, because what happens is we get addicted to this stress response hormones that you've maybe experienced since childhood, which can temporarily soothe a dysregulated nervous system, but of course they fade out of the body, leading you to chase that high again. And this is why workaholism is addictive, and twins often become very busy. They kind of drown themselves in busyness, essentially, to try to get that high again, where they are receiving stress hormones flooding the body. And these stress hormones lead to fluctuating weight gain and a desire or craving for drugs and alcohol, which mimic the stress hormone, the soothing given by the stress hormone. Those are some of the signs that you can look for that help you to identify that essentially your twin flame is working from a place of a highly dysregulated nervous system. Now, when you are in this state of dysregulation, where there is no essential trust that you've built from yourself, you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure, what can happen is there's this interesting shift in the way that men and women respond to, or have become, as a result of having this dysregulated nervous system. And what I have experienced in my coaching is that my male clients in particular lean heavily, and also my twin used to do this as well, okay? So lean heavily into their feminine energy. which is much more flowing and free and soft and can be also playful. But at the same time, what happens as a result of that, when twins meet, you drop naturally into the opposing state. So the state that actually you are designed to be in. Now, I'm not saying all women need to be in their feminine and all men need to be in their masculine, but you will find very naturally that when you meet your twin flame, you drop into the state which actually you are designed for. And for me and my twin, he drops automatically into his masculine when he's with me, and I drop very deep into my soft feminine. And it feels, again, this is what creates that bubble state. We are in our true place of safety. We are in our truth. We are in our true state of being. I'm always talking about how twins come into that place of truth when you're together. But again, that's not the same for everyone. So my daughter, for example, she is very natural. My youngest daughter is very naturally in her masculine energy and always has been. However, I have also been researching around how that can come about as a result of trauma during her birth and during my pregnancy. So it could still be a protective layer. It might not actually be her truth, but this is her journey to go on and experience and work through. So I'm not saying that, if you're a man, you have to be in masculine energy. But what I'm saying is that a lot of the time, if you're working from a dysregulated nervous system, as a man, it is easy for you to lean into your feminine energy, which is flowing free and soft, because it feels safe for you to do that. But what happens as a result in the twin flame dynamic, it leaves your woman, or, you are essentially pushing women are then pushed into their masculine energy. So they have to then create the strategy, the structure. And actually, a lot of women at our core don't want to do that. We just don't. We want our masculines to lead, and we want to be allowed to soften. But to do that in a way that feels safe with the masculine energy, the masculine has to be able to step into being able to create this sense of safety and trust for themselves first. This then enables the feminine to feel such a sense of relief and allows her to let down her guard so beautifully. One of the ways I want you to know about how to heal this dysregulated nervous system is by balancing both your masculine and feminine energy, because this dysregulation does present differently in men and women in general. Women do tend to go into their protective masculine when they're dysregulated, and a lot of men lean into their very feminine energy. Men in general become very soft. They often don't have boundaries. They don't know how to lead consistently. And essentially, they look to someone else to do that for them. And both men and women in this dysregulated state don't know how to work with their polar opposite energies in a healthy way. So we get a lot of hard women who struggle with, and I used to be this way too. This is how I'm sharing this experience. I was like this for years. I struggled with the, typical feminine traits of being soft and vulnerable. And a lot of my male clients, by contrast, have previously struggled to embrace that side of them. So, for example, for them, where the feminine struggles with being soft and vulnerable, my male clients are struggling to embrace their inner masculine. So, for example, they might be bad on, for example, timings or setting dates on things. They don't know how to work with that steady, consistent energy of the inner masculine. And the inner masculine is all about building inner stability. And working with these inner states of being is one of the ways that you can help to create a more stabilized nervous system for yourself, and creating these kind of little trust bonds internally, which in turn your twin will mirror. So when you start to embody a balanced masculine and feminine energy, and actually you realign yourself to the energy that is most natural for you, so the energy that you desire to be in, or that you feel yourself dropping into when you're with your twin, is your truth. That is your truth speaking loud and clear. That's why you feel such a sense of peace when you're with your twin. You are realigning to your natural state, to your core state of being. So just to summarize then, the reason your twin lets you down is because they are literally living from this place of having a dysregulated nervous system based on the fact that they are craving, but haven't been able to create, at least until meeting you, trust, safety, and security for themselves. But also, what I want you to remember, like I said, is that your twin mirrors you. And to some degree, most feminines also haven't cultivated this sense of safety for themselves, particularly emotionally. And this is something I'm going really deep into in my upcoming masterclass, Trust Space, about how to create that inner stability and safety for yourself, which results in the kind of relationship dynamic that you desire and deserve. But the most important thing I want you to remember or take away from this video is that if your twin flame says they want to see you, or they make plans with you only later to forget or rearrange or turn up hours late, it's not because their intention wasn't pure or because they don't love you. And it really frustrates me, when I hear on Instagram or wherever posts saying, well, if they wanted to be there, they would, wouldn't they? Because to me, as a coach, working with people overcoming this, it's like, do you actually have any idea about how hard somebody might be trying to reach you and how hurt and frustrated they get with themselves for letting you down? Like, they really do. And your twin flame doesn't mean to hurt you. They do want to see you and they do want to spend time with you. Of course they do, because they know when they're with you is actually when they can fully relax. Their nervous system fully relaxes. It really starts to slow down and they find this sense of peace and balance again. But it's just that they haven't yet built strong enough neural pathways in their mind to be able to create this sense of trust, to know that actually this is real, this is meant for them, that they can have that. Something that's really important to remember when thinking about the actions of somebody that's working from a dysregulated central nervous system is that they are pushed so far out of their body because their body feels an uncomfortable place to be because of the stress hormones flooding their body, because they're constantly on overdrive, because they're constantly rushing around, because they're constantly looking for ways to escape this uncomfortable sensation in their body. They are pushed into the space of the mind, but into the area of the mind that deals predominantly with stress. And so what happens is, because they are essentially not safe within their body, they cannot create an embodied safe experience for themselves. And the thing is, with the divine feminine in particular, the divine feminine is often very connected to the spiritual realm, higher consciousness, and is able to receive inner guidance, essentially. Divine feminines in particular are able to listen to and trust their intuition. But in order to be able to have that, you have to be able to be open. Like, your body cannot be flooded with stress hormones. Your body can't be a non-safe space because, of course, the way that we receive guidance, the way that we receive intuition, the way that we receive intuitive signs and prompts from the universe, source energy, whatever you want to call it, is through our body. If you think about it, the expression, trust your gut feeling, it comes in literally through your gut. Your body, we're given goosebumps, for example, when something feels either very, very good or very, very wrong. We get goosebumps when we sense the presence of the supernatural. And so these signs, this connectivity flows through our body first. But when somebody who has not embodied safety and trust within the physical, they are pushed so deeply into the mind space that they are essentially navigating life without an internal compass system. So not only are they working from this place of not having created trust bonds in their mind, which would enable them to be able to create a trustworthy relationship for themselves, but they are literally working for the majority of the time without that divine guidance, without a map, and they're kind of just stabbing in the dark the whole time. And again, not only are their environmental circumstances triggering them and often re-triggering them, they are re-triggering themselves because essentially they continue to live life in the same way with the same habits and continue to take themselves out of their body and into the space of the mind. And this is why you get so many divine masculines who are very caught up in the mind space. And it's not their fault. They are just literally pushed there because for many, many reasons, so environmental, circumstantial, childhood trauma, and their physical body's response to that, which is now so habitualized, they have just learned to live in the place of the mind. This is like why I said they're such deep thinkers and overthinkers, but it's at the cost of being able to listen to their internal wisdom and their internal guidance. So it really isn't about you. When I'm saying that, it's not a platitude. It's not me saying, hey, don't worry, it's not really about you. It really isn't about you. Now, the good thing is when twin flames connect, when twin flames meet one another, actually what happens is your central nervous system starts to calm down. It recognizes that place of safety and trust within the other. And it's really the body's way of saying, you don't have to live life in this way anymore. Like, this isn't the way forward for you. Trust what feels good. Trust your heart space. Trust the energy that you have when you're together. Trust the time and space you have when you are around each other. But sometimes it can take the divine masculine in particular. But again, like I said, the divine feminine also struggles with emotional regulation, with emotional stability. And until they decide, and this is key, until you decide that actually this is a safe space for me, it is safe for me to trust this, this does feel good, and you keep deciding that. This is key, because making these new habits, these new associations in the mind, these new neural pathways, well, when we keep doing that over and over and over, we are essentially rewiring ourselves for peace, trust, stability, consistency, presence, all the things that our physical body has been craving probably since childhood. And that's what twins, when they allow themselves the chance to do that, and they are being shown that actually this is for you, you can have this. This is where you're meant to be. You're not meant to be running on a half-empty tank the whole time in this place of the mind. We're not meant to live there. And this is what twins are being shown to each other. Like, you are meant for pure love. You are meant for peace. You are meant for stability. You are not meant for chaos, drama, inconsistency, people who don't turn up for you. You are not meant to have that. Join my masterclass Trust Space for more, because I'm going to be talking so much more about this. This is not something that's difficult to create. I think it's very easy when you're in a twin flame dynamic to think, maybe it's just a fantasy, maybe it's just a dream, maybe I'm just a dreamer. You know, we kind of gaslight ourselves into the reality. No, like, you're here listening to this because you believe in more, right? You believe in love, peace, presence, consistency, stability, romance, having the perfect relationship. There is such a thing as a perfect relationship. Like, it's bullshit that, you know, you have that. When you're with your twin flame, tell me it's not perfect. Of course it is. That's why you keep coming back to each other. You both know it is perfection. You both know it's safety. You both know it's trust. You both know you want that. You both know you find that within the other. And this is rare, right? You don't have this with everybody. In fact, most people, because we're still playing out trauma, because we're still conditioned into the mind space through our societal priority on education, most of us are not living life by our heart space. But this is what you're here for as a twin flame. You're here, and I know you're here for this reason, to show the world that love doesn't have to look like pain. It doesn't have to look like chaos. It doesn't have to look like trauma. Nothing has to be, difficult decisions. It doesn't have to be, or at worst case scenario, which I find is the absolute worst, by the way, living a relationship that has flatlined. Because to me, if you're flatlined, you're dead. Who wants to live in a dead relationship? Nobody. You're not here for that. You're not here to live in a mediocre relationship. You are here to have the twin flame relationship, to have bliss, to have excitement, to have joy, to have inspiration, to have peace, to have creativity, all of those things, to have purpose, to have absolute trust in someone, even when they don't always trust themselves, even when you don't always trust yourself. And this is why when you're working... But if you want that, you have to commit to making these new pathways for yourself as habit. So over and over and over again, reconditioning yourself, choosing trust every time, choosing love over fear every time. So if this resonates for you, if you know actually you are here because you want this relationship, you believe in your twin flame, you know what exists between you, you want more of it, not less, and you're sick of these cycles where perhaps you're flaked on, or your twin flame doesn't turn up, or they're late, or you're inconsistent for yourself in some way, perhaps with your purpose or your emotions. And actually, there is more for you. There is something in you that knows this is not the way that it's supposed to be. Join Trust Space. Honestly, and it's going to transform everything. I'm so excited to bring this to you. So that's what I want you to know, is that the divine masculine in particular is working from this place of not being able to fully listen to or connect to their deepest sense of their subconscious mind. They're not able to tune into their inner guidance system. They're not able to tune in properly to their guides. They're not really paying attention to what their dreams are telling them. But at the same time, they do have this deep down knowing of what they are also here for. They also know that actually there is more meant for them. They also know, we have to stop seeing our counterpart as avoidant, fearful, they don't know what the connection means, they treat me this way, they treat me that way. If it's your true twin flame, they love you, they're there for you, they're not going anywhere. They might struggle the same as you do, mirror, mirror, but they are not going anywhere. They know what this relationship means to them. If they don't, they're not your twin flame. They're just an asshole. Or you're in a trauma bonded relationship. If you know, this is for you, if you know your twin flame does love you, like you really know that deep down, but they still keep letting you down. Like I said, they're working from that place of this dysregulated nervous system and unable to trust their inner guidance, but simply because it's unfamiliar to them. It changes over time as you change. Mirror, mirror. There is a way out of this. So I think some of us think that we have this fear that in this kind of uncomfortable and hurtful dynamic that we are going to be stuck here forever. Like this is never going to change. We need to set some sort of time limit on it. You know, we're just going to be stuck here forever, that the behavior is never going to change. But actually what I've seen happen in my clients, and also as you can see from my own relationship right here with my work and purpose example, as you start to create more trust and stability for yourself and build your own sense of safety, your twin reflects that right back to you. And I'm going to go into details exactly about how to do that and why that happens in the masterclass. And I'd love to see you there if you want to learn about how to do that specifically. And details are going to be below for you. So I hope this has been useful. Remember, your twin loves you more than life. They really do. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'd be super grateful for your likes and shares if this has helped you in any way. And I'd love to talk more with you over on Instagram. You can follow me there. I'm at @thetemplewebuilt_. I'll talk to you soon.